The creative mind is what does all of those conceptual stuff that we talked about before and prepares us for the world of the future. Now, we develop the creative mind through play, even with teenagers, through doing things that are creative. You can't become creative by not doing creative stuff. You train creativity by doing creative stuff. And one of the people that we work with, for example, is Larry Scripp. I'm working with him at the moment on a music program. And music is a very creative activity, but it can link to all sorts of other things like mathematics. Music is very mathematical. People who are good at music are usually really good at maths because the same part of the brain is used for both. So if you can train kids to enjoy music and to write music and to play music, their mathematical skills improve. Without teaching them maths, they learn proportion, they learn sequence, they learn all sorts of interesting things about mathematics through music. And the more creative they are with the music, the more they learn. Creativity is about two things. It's about being flexible and about being fluent. It's about being able to make connections. The more that we understand how creativity works, the more chance we have of making our children creative. Creative children are able to make connections between things that aren't normally connected. That's what creativity is. I take this idea and I take that idea and I synthesize them together and come up with a solution that nobody else ever thought of. That's what creativity is. And so we give them lots of opportunities to do that. We give them lots of various things to play with and see what kind of connections they make. And the more connections they make when they're children, the more creative they're going to be when they're adults. But if we only train them to do one thing, rote learn, that's all they're going to do for the rest of their lives. Abraham Maslow, who was a great educational psychologist, said this: if the only tool you possess is a hammer, then every problem comes to resemble a nail. And what he meant by that was, if I can only do things one way, I'm going to try to use that way to do everything. And unfortunately, rote learning is one of those things. It's a big hammer. But if that's the only tool you've got, you're going to try to rote learn everything. And it doesn't work, because most things can't be learned rote. They have to be learned in different ways. The more different ways I have, the more mindsets I have, the more of a champion mindset I develop. The two sides of the brain, the left brain and the right brain, should be in balance. Our habitual learning, our patterns, all of the things that we do automatically should be balanced by our creative and associative mind. If they're not balanced, and this is part of Professor Snyder's research that I don't have time to talk to you about today, but what he proved was that the left brain, the concepts and the structure, dominate over the right brain, the creativity and the associative functions. And in order to balance those things, from the very earliest times, we have to give them plenty of practice at forming concepts and structuring ideas on the one hand, and being creative on the other hand. If we can balance those activities when they're young, it'll be balanced all their lives. But if we only focus on one side of the brain, that side of the brain will become very strong, and they will become unbalanced in the way that they do learning from then on.